Okay, welcome back everyone. So we're finally going to get around to trying to assemble our rain barrel. The barrel that we have is this one. It's just a white plastic barrel. I've had it now sitting around for a couple of years. Been sitting out behind the shed. Can't remember exactly what was in it. It was an environmentally friendly cleaning product that was in it originally. But it's been around a couple of years with no lid on it. It's had water in it and dumped out of it and rinsed out. So we need to wash it all up, and we'll have to cover it or paint it black or something to keep the sunlight from getting in it and creating an algae bloom in the water. But we can do that later. We need to create some sort of a base to set that on so that it's high enough. I want to put a hose on the bottom of it to be able to get water out of it easily. So we've got a deck that, well, it was called a deck on the side of the house, and it was getting quite rotten, so we tore it off last summer, and there's a pile of wood from it laying up against the fence. So we'll go out, we'll go through that, gather up whatever there is for some 2x4s, 2x6s I think laying there that were still good, and we'll sort through that, pick the nails out of it, and we'll make some sort of a stand for the barrel to set on out of that wood instead of just throwing it out. That's what we like to do, is reuse everything that we can. So we'll go out, we'll pick that out, and then I'll get nails all cleaned out of it. And I still have to come up with, I gotta measure that and see what kind of dimensions I need for a stand yet, and take some measurements on where I plan on putting that to see what height that I need to build the stand. So I'll get some wood cleaned up out of nails and stuff and make up, get some dimensions, and then we'll continue. So we selected out our wood, pulled the nails the best we could. Some of the nails were so rusty, they broke off and I couldn't get them out, so I had to be careful when I was cutting the wood that I didn't cut those nails with the saw blade. So we have a very rudimentary stand here it's all the wood that we had for 2x4s. We took some of those skid slats we had and nailed them on the top for a base. So that'll support our barrel just fine. I'm not worried, it's good and sturdy. So the next thing we need to do now is start doing the plumbing work on the barrel. So we got a couple of 1.5 inch PVC parts, and we got an outside tap and some 3/4 inch barb fittings with threads on one end, barbs on the other ends. The idea, I hope, is to have this 90-degree elbow threaded into the bottom of the bucket coming out. The bucket's going to be on the corner of the garden shed, and there's some trees and bushes in the way. You're not going to get easy access to it to get the water out just to put a tap in the bucket. So we're going to run a pipe from here about 5 feet over next to the door on the shed, where we're going to put the tap, so you'll be able to turn the tap, put a bucket under it, and get your water that way. The 1.5 inch PVC parts are just going to be for overflow, so when the barrel's sitting on top of this, we'll have an overflow pipe near the top that comes down and drains out behind the shed if it overfills. So we've got those pieces that we had to buy. It's got about a 3-inch opening on the top of this barrel. So we're going to construct something that's going to fit on the top of this with a screen over it, and then just use the top portion of the downspout on the shed to drain through that screen. The screen hopefully will stop any of the cedar leaves, pine needles and stuff like that that are coming off the roof of that shed. So that'll be the next thing, is to do the plumbing work on the barrel. Can't remember, I think we left off, we had the stand made for our rain barrel. So I took the stand out to the corner of the shed where I'm going to put it, removed the downspout that was there on the shed. We set the barrel up to see where things were going to line up. Put in the elbow piece that came off the drain spout there up on the eave trough in the shed and come back to the wall of the shed and then down. So we cut this a little bit shorter here because the barrel, when it's up against the wall, the opening in the barrel is back a little bit from where the wall is. So we cut this a little bit shorter so that lines up. I needed to come up with a way to screen out the debris from the water from getting in here. So what I did was made up a little wooden piece that's going to sit on here, and I made an angled piece on the front of it and just stapled some screen on it. We'll try this out, see how it works. So the idea, and I'll probably silicone this on once I'm sure it's going to work. So this is going to come off of the downspout, and there'll be a short piece of drain pipe here that's just going to sit something like that in front of the screen. I'll probably cut this on an angle similar to the angle of that so it can sit closer. And the screen, hopefully the debris will just wash off onto the barrel and let the water go through. So we're going to take the barrel back out, put it up on the stand, see how things line up, get a piece of drain pipe cut for that. And if I'm confident that's all going to work, then I'll silicone that into place just to seal it up from anything getting in there. This may also help stop mosquitoes from getting in and having this become a breeding ground for the mosquitoes. So that's next. We'll take it out and see how that all lines up. So we took it out, put our eave troughs pieces on top, had to trim them down a little bit more, and I've marked out this little spot in the bottom here. The idea, this is just a barb fitting for a 3/4 inch poly tubing that's made to thread into something, and since there's nothing to thread into on the bottom, I'm going to use a 1-inch hole saw. I think that'll be the right size for me to force those threads in, put some silicone on it to hold it in, and that's where we're going to attach a hose that's going to come out of the bottom. I'm not sure exactly how thick the bottom of this barrel is. I want to be close to it, but I don't want to run into it. Good. I think we're in a good spot there. We're just off the bottom of the barrel. And we'll see if we can force that fitting in there. I think that's going to hold. I don't know how much pressure will be on it. If this barrel gets full of water, there'll be some pressure pushing against it, but without even putting any silicone on there, I can't seem to pull that out, so I think that's going to work for us. Now the stand where this is going to sit, I need to notch out the stand a little bit for this. So I don't know if I want to carry the stand back or maybe I'll take the saw out there and do it. And then we're going to have to start siliconing stuff on and get this thing painted. So for now we'll paint it black because that's the quickest thing we can do, and we have some black paint. So for now I need to go notch out the stand for that, silicone some parts on it, and then we'll get it painted. So we've got our top part that we made up to try and screen out the water. We've tried to make the screen a steep enough angle so that hopefully the debris that hits it will just run off onto the top of the barrel. We've got a little spigot in the bottom that we're going to attach a hose to. We've already had this in place and put the hose on it on the shed that extends about 5 feet down to a tap. Because this is actually in behind a tree a little bit on the corner of the shed. Too difficult to get into to get water out of it into your watering cans and stuff. So we put the tap on it. First coat of black paint on. The black paint again is to block out the sunlight for a couple of hours in the morning, and the rest of the day it'll be shaded by the shed where it sits, so it may not be an issue. If it is, then we'll make some wooden panels and we'll put the panels on top of the stand that this sits on, so it'll be completely covered up by wooden panels. But we'll wait and see if we need to do that. So we're just waiting for this paint to dry up a little bit now so we can do a second coat just to make sure it's thick enough to try and block out the sun. And we'll put it back in place. And then the last thing we need to do is figure out where we're going to put the overflow pipe. So I bought a threaded connection. We'll drill a hole where we decide it has to be, thread that into the side, short piece of pipe, put a 90-degree elbow on, this length of pipe to where we need it, and then we have a 45 we'll put on the bottom and just shoot it out away from the shed. So that's the plan. Well, when this dries, we'll get a second coat on. We'll see where we're at. Okay, so we're outside now. This is the shed. There's our rain barrel that we've been working on. So that's how we cut the drain pipe on an angle to sit above the screen. I had to come back and add this little flapper piece here because the water seemed to want to run down off the bottom of the screen quite a bit. It still does run down the screen a fair bit. I almost think the screen has too small of holes, or it's too the slope of it is too steep and the water's running down the screen. So a fair bit of water is going through it, but there's also a lot running down and just onto the lid of the barrel. But it is stopping the debris from getting in there. So we put a hose with a spigot there on the back, and we brought the hose across and mounted a tap on the end, so you can just set a watering can or a pail down here and open the tap and get water in it. There's probably some now because when we set it up, yeah, there's just a little bit in it. We washed out the eave trough to see how that screen was going to work at catching the debris. So we got a little bit of water in the bucket just from running the garden hose down through the eave trough. So this shed only has the eave trough on the one side, on this side only. It's about 16 feet long, I think, that shed, with the overhang on each end, maybe 18. So we'll see how much water we collect off of just one side. All these pine trees and there's cedar trees behind it. That's where we end up with a lot of the debris from. So we'll see how that works. If it works out good, we can always add more barrels to it and just go around the back side of that shed so they're out of sight and whatnot, out of the way. So we'll try this for now. Once we get the bugs worked out of the first one, it's easy to add on to. That's all. Thank you for watching.